let's do a quick deck tech with a deck that I've already done a little bit of work with in the previous two videos, or iterations of it, I should say. This is basic Boros, so basically versions with no Ragavan, no Darcy, no Mishra's Bauble. The first league played a slightly different variant. We did some tweaks after that. I didn't have Lurrus in the first build, which was deliberate. Personally, I think you should be playing Lurrus in any type of burn, although it's not free per se. There was a matchup that you'll see in this league that may have been cost us that we had Lurrus. I'm not going to get too much into the details of that, but giving away the fact that your companion is Lurrus sometimes is not necessarily free information. If your opponent has specific cards, especially in game one. Beyond that, something a little bit about Magic Online is there's a delay if you have a companion. So even if you choose not to reveal your companion in game number one, your opponent can still glean information if they pay attention to those stops and stuff. Little small stuff that is on the digital client that we wouldn't see in real life, but something to consider. Beyond that, why did we land on this list? So it's been my personal opinion that the Darcy Mishra's Bauble without Ragavan version has been the correct way to build the deck, but someone kind of challenged me to iterate with different cards to see kind of what versions of burn, what cards are best, etc. So I went with kind of the basic build that I usually do, which is like the 20 land 4 across the board build. We started out with 4 Lightning Helix, 4 Skewer the Critics, no Skull Cracks in the main. The rest of the deck was pretty much the same. The fetch lands aren't relevant in terms of which ones they are, as long as you have 6 or 7 if you don't like playing the Fiery Islet. 6 or 7 red fetch lands. The particular ones don't matter. I do like the 3 Mountain, 2 Sacred Foundry thing, 4 Inspiring Vantage, 4 Sunbay Canyon. Whether you want the 5th Canopy land or you want another fetch land. Some people want to play 19 lands and play things like the card. The one that sacks a land to deal 3 damage, Shard Volley. But I don't tend to like to stick to those cards. Another card you can consider, like you could play a one of Flame Rift, you could play some Thunderous Wrath if you don't mind mulliganing a little bit and being a little bit spicy. There's just some random things you can play, but this is kind of like where we ended up. I did like having the Skull Cracks and the Vortexes in the sideboard, so I moved the Skull Cracks to the main, cut down on 1 Helix, cut down on Skewer. Never been a huge fan of Skewer. Obviously under the best of circumstances, it's a 1 mana. It's a 1 mana Chain Lightning, lack of a better term. A lot of times, especially in late game, it's 3 mana, and sometimes you don't always have the 3 mana to spare. Sometimes in the past I've also played Seal of Fire, have a little bit more interaction on turn 1 for creature decks. There's a lot of different iterations you can do. But overall, this is kind of where I landed without being, too cute with, skewing to one way or the other. Skull Cracks in the main are fine. You could play 4th Lightning Helix, 4 Skewer, whatever. I just wanted to free up some room in the sideboard to test some more cards. Wear Tear is obviously pretty good right now with all the various Urza Saga decks running around, whether it be Hammer Time, whether it be Affinity, whether it be Jund Sagavan, although I wouldn't bring it in against Jund Sagavan. Smash to Smithereens also, these are the cards you bring in against Hammer Time, also relevant against all the Chalices with Blue-White Control and such. Deflecting Palm, this is a card that I went and wax on. If we were in a format which was like, more control based, more mid-range based, this card gets a little bit worse. It's generally better against like the Death Shadow, non-blue Death Shadow, and Hammer Time decks, which I happen to see a disproportionately high number of in the leagues that we played. So, its performance kind of maybe was a little bit weight heavier than it would normally be. We also placed a deck with an Emrakul, just the different things. Deflecting Palm can be relevant in a lot of spots. It won us, I don't know how many games against Hammer Time. Definitely a card you should auto-include if you're playing in an open Vena. Roiling Vortex, once again, this is a card that in the matches we played was very middling, but very powerful in the matchups that it's good in. Mainly the Cascade matchups, mainly any type of life gain stuff, or where your opponent's going to be interacting with your permanents, but maybe have problems removing an enchantment. Sanctifier and Vac, I think this was Outside of Deflecting Palm, I would say this is the card that was most impressive across the previous 7 matches we played before these 3 to finish up the league. Just its randomness is, obviously it makes your Lurrus a little bit worse, but in those matchups you're generally willing to pay that price because Sanctifier Invec itself is such a powerful card. What's the difference between this and Firewalker? Firewalker is strictly better in the mirror match, because Sanctifier, obviously, you don't get the life gain, whereas Sanctifier is good against a lot of other decks. It's good against a lot of the various Darcy Ragavan decks. It's pretty good, obviously, against the mirror match. It's okay against the mirror match. It also has applications against random things like Dredge, some variations of Living End. It exiles most Reanimator targets, particularly Arcana Cruelty, and then obviously Path to Exile. I've kind of leaned and waxed between Path to Exile and Prismatic Ending. I think Path is a little bit better right now. It's instant speed, hits a little bit more, especially in your mainly two color mana base. So I think Path's a little bit better currently. But that said, let us jump into the remainder of this league. Alright, we're back for what's technically match number 3, but first match in this video. Opponent's on the play, which is unfortunate, but I still think this is a hand we keep. Mulliganing this aggressively might be Tron. If it was Lurrus, I would say Hammer Time, but okay, now the above. Alright, weird. It's just F6 maybe. Look, if you're gonna fatal push it, There's nothing. Oh, are we getting Chaliced on one? Well, that's... wow. Okay. That's kind of unfortunate. Normally Chalice on one's kind of whatever, but here it's actually kind of something. It's going to get dismembered on top of everything else. Seems like they're thinking about it. Oh, warping well, sure. Why would you name human here? Just trolling us a little bit, perhaps? really don't like ignoring Karn, but we're so low on like actual legit resources that kind of have to. Sure. Ironically, that's actually the card that I wanted them to go get. Alright. Alright, and we can no longer one. So, not entirely sure what our opponent's doing over there. Like, we don't know if they actually have Eldrazi in their deck, or if they're just some type of terrible mono black Tron deck? Question mark. go like this, I guess. It isn't particularly exciting, but I think it's fun in the matchup. Especially if the opponent's going to aggressively mulligan to just hold up bolt and anti-life gain measures here. It probably takes Boros Charm and then chalices us on one. Okay, what do you go get here? Alright, question becomes is, does that really change much? Not that we didn't suspect that they were on Eldrazi. Eidolon becomes much worse. Try it like that. Chalice on one's definitely a possibility. Alright, handing them different Tron lands, kind of scary. Definitely feels like a Chalice on one, sure. Natty Tron, cool. Alright, we can no longer win this game. Sometimes you lose to Chalices on whatever. Alright, we're back for match number 3. Yes, I'd like to be on the play. Looks like our opponent also has a companion. Interesting. This hand's pretty good on the play. Generally, one of the better openings in Burn is on the draw is either the 1-drop, 1-drop, 1-drop start, or the Goblin Guide and Eidolon such. Alright, hammer time. Maybe Affinity. Kind of puts us in a tough spot. That's why Hammer Time can be such a rough matchup, because our opponent deliberately didn't reveal Luris, huh? Could hold a bolt there, but probably go get Shadow Spear. Oh, correctly realizing the only card that could kill us there was Boros Burn. Alright. I'm not going to tell my opponent. They tried to be cute and not reveal Luris, but Okay. Sure. Alright, pass turn. Seems pretty reasonable overall. Alright. Nice to beat Hammer Time 3 matches in a row. See you for the next match. Alright, we're back for the 5th match in this league, 3rd match in this video. Hand's pretty good, although we're on the draw, which kind of sucks. Oh, great. We're either up against Affinity or Land Destruction, neither of which is a particularly fantastic matchup. Most likely Land Destruction. Yep. Might have another bolt in hand. Yep. Alright, if we somehow don't get land destruction and draw another land, we could win next turn. Actually, no, we can't. Sounds fine. Not as many lands as I would like, but it's fine. That was a mistake. And it's going to cost me. No sense in playing the creature into what likely is a bolt. Alright, so you're dead. Got it. Some consideration for Deepalm, but like that requires us to have lands in play when our opponent kills us with an Emrakul, so, you know, that ain't guaranteed. Sounds fine. Alright. That's very unfortunate. Alright, somehow don't have an LD spell. Let us draw a land. Let us draw a land, please. Alright, or that does it. Unless they have, whatchamacallit. Okay, they didn't have Force Spike, so we got the 4-1. Nice. Alright, we're back with a short wrap-up. Another 4-1 was quite nice. Still can't get that elusive 5-0, but you really can't complain about chaining some 4-1s together. As we talked about in the opener, Deflecting Palm overperformed. Sanctifier, maybe not in these set of matches per se, but definitely overperformed. Roiling Vortex, fine overall sideboard card. A little bit of a juke against anti-creature stuff. The prismatic ending obviously has made it a little bit worse. The rest of the deck seems pretty functional. Once again, still not quite sure about the Skullcrack Lightning Helix Skewer split in this kind of build. I do like a lot of else what's going on. Just the fact that we get to play a Sanctifier in back. I don't know. So, and I mean this in all sincerity, I think the biggest takeaway from this version of the deck, obviously, the version I'd been playing was like the 16 creature, 18 land deck with the 4 Mishra's Baubles. As to whether that one or this one is better, I honestly cannot answer that question. But a lot of it, I think, comes down to what do you kind of expect. Sanctifier and Vec is quite a house, both against Darcy decks. Pretty decent against a lot of the... this allows you to kind of play pseudo graveyard hate without playing like dedicated graveyard hate of like Relic or Rest in Peace, spell bombs, those different Soul Guide lanterns, etc. Obviously it does nerf your Lurrus a little bit, but Lurrus just being a free card is kind of what Lurrus does. If you wanted to play this with like Baubles in the deck, still get some value out of your Lurrus, you certainly could. Basically, I think it comes down to, I think the Darcy Vet deck grinds a little bit better. I think this version is a little bit faster overall, maybe. I mean, maybe by like a quarter turn. Like, it's not a huge deal. But I think the Darcy version grinds a little bit better, whereas this one, obviously, a little bit more burn to draw off the top of your deck. And I think it just comes down to, is your playstyle prefer, or does your wallet prefer, the more traditional version and then playing Sanctifier, or do you like the Mishra's Bauble Darcy package, giving a little bit more grindy thing, but making you a little bit weaker to graveyard hate than you should be. But, a lot of the same cards still apply, obviously. But, I think it just comes down to your wallet, obviously, and your playstyle preferences. And then really comes down to the utility of Darcy and Mishra's Bauble versus the utility of Sanctifier and back on your board. Because I don't really think you can play Sanctifier and back in your Darcy version. Just not something you can really do. So, nuances of Burn, who would think? A deck that a lot of people would consider one of the brainless decks of the format, does have a little bit of nuance and thing to it. But I think if I were to play this version further on in the boot camp, this is where I would start in the current meta and then kind of work from there. So, anywho, this has been John for MTG Nexus. Hope to see you tomorrow for our next video.